Welcome back. Now, our next guest is a former pro cyclist who may have retired from racing, but certainly hasn't stepped away from the bike.
No, he sure has not. He's lending his support to Purple House ahead of this year's Madrid to Bilbao charity. That sounds like a... bar the cycling bit. That sounds amazing.
Great
Here
party.
to tell us more about it is Nicolas Roche. Good morning, Nicolas. Great to have you with us.
Good morning. Lovely to have you.
How are things? Life going well for you? Like, listen, cycling never seems to be off the telly at the minute. It's all incredible races right around the country and around the world. Are you still involved in cycling? And obviously you've stepped away from the professional side of it, but you still do quite a bit.
I do quite a bit. I'd say about 5 times a week, so it's actually a lot.
Wow.
But yeah, so I'm working now representing brand as an ambassador, so I do bike testing, bike launches, advertisement, and one of the parts of that is also going to gravel racing, which is kind of the trendy new cycling way of going out. So I do a little bit of mountain biking as well, started that this winter. And so I'm trying to stay fit, kind of still do a bit of racing to get the adrenaline rush, and I do bits and pieces on TV as well.
What's gravel racing?
Yeah.
What's gravel racing?
So it's like, you know all the little green rays when they're a little bit rough, but it's not mountain biking and it's not road cycling?
Yes.
It's the one in the middle.
Okay, I gotcha.
Just cycling on Irish roads, really. Dodging a few potholes.
So actually, it comes from America, and they call it unpaved because obviously down there, it's once you're off the freeway or the highway, most of the roads in the Midwest are unpaved.
Yeah.
So it's basically anything that's not hard enough to be called mountain biking and a little bit too easy to be called road cycling.
Road cycling.
And you've got your own team for road cycling or gravel cycling, don't you?
Yes, I had with my little brother and his girlfriend, but they moved out now, and so I'm on my own. But
Okay.
It works pretty well. It's nice to be able to do, they call it privateer, so I have my own little team. I can work on my own program.
Yeah.
I promise the brands I'll be going to the States, to Australia. I do about 10 to 12 countries a year with bike racing. And then I do, with that, I do all the editing with the photographers and all that to give them a bit of content as well.
Because I suppose that's what it's all about now these days. But stepping away from the peloton, like from racing professionally for, a decade and a half, it must have been very hard.
It was. Thankfully, I straight away got back into something very competitive, which was Dancing with the Stars. And that was a soft transition into my non-professional cycling.
Did it actually help?
It did, yeah, greatly. It took my mind off it. Because I really struggled. And I remember having a big argument with Karen at some point because I was waking up in the morning and I was thinking, do I go out training at 6 o'clock in the morning to be back in the studio at 10 to go training? At some point, I fell asleep one time during our little break.
Yeah.
And Karen's like, Nico, you just stopped cycling. Can you not just focus on the dancing? This is only 3 months of your life and then it's gone. Just focus on it. And I was like, okay, I think you're right, Karen.
Wow, so it really did kind of mentally go, okay, I have to step away from this for a little while.
But when that finished, I went back to cycling.
Straight back to cycling. Straight back to cycling. It's obviously, we all know it's in your blood and all that with your dad, Stephen, but kind of, it is a community, right? The cycling community, because you're kind of together a lot.
You're together a lot. And not only with your close community, it's global. Everywhere I go, I will always meet new people most of the time through cycling.
Right, okay.
Regardless of the country, I went to Sri Lanka and I went there because of cycling. Even in places like in Dubai at the start of the year, I was there for one of my sponsors' birthday party, and in the morning, obviously, flew in with my bike and I posted something like, I'm in Dubai, is there anyone going out on the spin? And I had couple of hundred of messages saying, oh, this is the place to go. We'll all meet there at 8. And I went there and there was about 150 people that literally showed up to go out for a train. I was like, this is amazing.
Wow, that's cool.
And they kept me company for 2 hours. Yeah.
Like, it's so popular. Like, I'm at that sort of level now that I'm becoming a mammal, like middle-aged man wearing lycra. Yeah, and like, it's unreal. All my friends are going off.
Sorry, you did get distracted by the laughing over there. Thank you, Anne.
They're getting like new bikes, testing new bikes, like the money that they're spending on these bikes. So for you to be going out and testing for these different companies and brands, like, that's kind of a bit of a dream for a lot of people.
Yeah, I'm happy I don't have to pay for modern bikes. They are pretty expensive.
So you cycle professionally for 17 seasons. Yeah. Obviously your father, Stephen, rode the sort of bike that he would have rode. Like, the technology that's coming into it now must be just insane.
Yeah, the last 5 years, the cycling industry has really boomed with the arrival of the disc brakes. I think everyone now has, the power meters are more accessible. They used to be very only literally for a handful of teams, and they were very expensive. Now the market's opened up, and there's a lot of power meters who are a lot more affordable.
What's a power meter?
Power meter. So it's like your speedometer, but it gives you the watts you produce instead of the speed you produce. So it's a bit more effective for your training rather than using your heart rate. You use cyclists use this thing called watts.
Yeah.
And then you you find out your kilowatts, and you do all these VO2 max tests, and then you go into very complicated things that for a lot of people it doesn't make sense. But it's still good to know about your body. So
do you have a Zwift? Do you go on a Zwift at home then as well?
Yes, although I have to say I'd rather not be on the Zwift. I'd almost prefer getting wet.
Yeah, you prefer to get outside.
What is this? What are you talking about?
A Zwift is cycling inside, which you're kind of going up against. You're watching the TV, aren't you? So you can cycle against people all over the world.
Yeah, they have like a little avatar that will replicate the power, the input that you're putting down on the bike, and you can choose your courses. And again, that
like
also
Super Mario Kart.
Exactly.
Sort of a thing. Lovely.
Exactly that, exactly. It's a lot harder.
Sorry, he's after admitting to something today that none of us here knew, and that was that he is a mammal. Like, we didn't know he was getting on the bike. He's been keeping this quite secret.
Well, no, I'm not. But I am. I like to do a bit of downhill mountain biking every now and again. But
Need that Lycra picture.
The adrenaline rush from that. Like for you, I've been cycling in part of the peloton for so long, to then go out on your own, to be doing the gravel race, and to be doing now mountain biking. Like, it's great to have different challenges like that. But what are there similarities, or is it extremely difficult, like say downhill mountain biking compared to?
I think downhill mountain biking are nutters.
Nutters,
Yes.
Okay.
I get a lot of adrenaline going down, but when I do the mountain biking race or the gravel racing, I had promised myself I'll do it in my own terms and not take too many risks. Okay. It doesn't work. No. Last year I came down and broke my hip. I did a whole career with one injury. I just broke my knee. But last year at the first gravel race of the year, came off, did my hip. So I was like, okay, so now I'm kind of taking it a little bit more easier. But it's a question of time. When it's very easy to get carried away, especially on the mountain bike and the downhills, because there's no cars there. So you're just kind of going with the flow, the adrenaline kicks in, and then next thing you hit a root or a branch or something and you come off.
It's
broke
insane.
your hip, and he's just like, yeah, and now let's talk about going from Madrid to Bilbao on a bike. Like, there's no fear with you cyclists, like the stuff that you go through. Tell us about this. You're involved with Purple House, which is an amazing place that offers so many counselling services for people going through cancer. So what is it that you're up to?
So there will be a cycle early June, and we're starting from Madrid, and we cycle all the way till Bilbao. It's over the week, so we don't do it in every day. It's accessible for everyone. You don't need to be a super fit cyclist. We do recommend a little bit of fitness because it's just easier for yourself, basically. There's going to be a lot of chats in the evening. I'll do a few Q&A sessions, and obviously all the proceeds will go to the charity.
When is it?
It's the 7th to the 13th.
7th to the 13th
of June.
I wonder, I must say, Derek, Leinster supporters be hoping to be getting to the final of the European Cup is in Bilbao this year as well.
Oh, really?
Ulster might be there as well. So maybe if you do the cycle, that'd be a good way to tie it all in.
If there's no jet fuel, you can just cycle from Madrid, lads. It'll be fine.
In terms of that cycle, though, for like a lot of amateur cyclists who'd be wanting to take part of this, like, is it doable for people? Like, what sort of hills would they be coming across?
So it's not the most difficult course. There will be hills, I'm not going to lie. It is going to be a little bit challenging, but it's very accessible. I think that's the key word. It's open to everyone. The pace is going to be everyone at their own speed. It's just, if you're a little bit fit, it's just more fun because it is a week of cycling.
Because Madrid is up so high, so I'm hoping that, with the altitude of Madrid, you got to go down, right?
So actually, funny enough, and that was the thing that I had mentioned is, like, Madrid, as you mentioned, is high enough, but
really high,
to go to the other side of the valley, you actually have to go up a bit higher.
No.
And then from there, it's almost downhill.
Oh, okay, right, because I'm there going, can it just be...
And it'd be great, as you mentioned, Spain, between Madrid and Bilbao, you'll go through the area of La Rioja, which is the famous wine regions. Yeah. It's a very, very pretty route. In Bilbao, you have the Guggenheimer museums. There's a lot of things to do as well on the route too.
And tell us, Purple House, like, why is that a charity? Because, listen, you've been, I'm sure, touted by a lot of charities over the years. Why did you pick this one?
It was close to my heart once because I went through all that with my brother's cancer, and then later on my auntie's cancer and my granddad's cancer. And I realized how much it affected me, but also the people who were sick. But cancer affects everyone, and I think almost every family at this point had someone close or not as close who got affected. And I always feel that it's one thing dealing with the actual sickness, but the mental effects that it has on the family and the collateral effects that it has on everyone are great. And no one until now had really put that much importance in, okay, it's great to have the body cured, but you need to cure the mind too.
Yeah, and the counselling services in Purple House, and just the every day-to-day things that they do for some people, breast cancer and bra fittings and wigs and all that kind of stuff. It's absolutely amazing. There's going to be an online information evening on April the 23rd. There's going to be another one in May, and this is happening from June the 7th until Saturday the 13th. If you feel like doing something challenging for your summer holidays, you could be cycling with Nicolas Roche from Madrid to Bilbao.
Sounds great.
That's nice. Mammal over here.
Oh, listen, give me my lycra.
Do you have the shorts?
No, I don't. No, I don't have the size shorts. Nicolas is going to sort me out.
Okay, grand, Jeff.
Nicolas Roche, thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Thanks so much.
Great to have you with us.